the ecosystems locally, but also globally. But before I go more into the details of whom we're having here today, let me just briefly introduce myself. I'm Julia, and I'm working as an Associate Program Officer at the International Trade Center. The International Trade Center is a joint agency of the WTO and of the UN. And specifically in my day-to-day job, I'm working with the Youth and Trade program, which aims to build more and better youth-led MSMEs. We are supporting youth-led MSMEs by technical and soft skill trainings, and also globally, we have an online community which is called the Year Platform, where we're providing a space for connection and for networking, and also access to mentors, to different tools and resources. And throughout our work, we have made the experience that having a unique idea, a well-developed business plan, or even a great team sometimes is not enough to successfully develop and grow your business, because it also really depends on whether you meet the right people at the right time. And to meet the right people, we believe a well-connected ecosystem is crucial to have, because this network can provide you with the support you need at the time you need it. And so now let me introduce our different 5 speakers to you. First of all, I would like to welcome Bob Oganga. Bob is a Venture Development Associate at Outbox Hub in Uganda, and he's working with new programs for facilitating entrepreneurship and innovation. Then we have here on the screen Federico Perez, who is the founder and the CEO of Platinum Capital, an international trade company which is determined to empower underserved communities through global value chain integration. We also have Aliou Senghor, who is the Managing Director of the Gambia Angel Investor Network, and the Gambia Angel Investor Network is the very first investor network in the Gambia. Then we have Judith, who is the Global Program Manager of the Young Founder Fellowship Program for Entrepreneurial Leadership in Emerging Economies of West Africa Foundation. I would also very much like to welcome Antonio Duarte, who is a Business Development Manager at OneStream and a mentor to guide young entrepreneurs in growing their business. We hope to make the session, despite being on the live stream and on Slido and on YouTube at the same time, really interactive. So I encourage you to use the Slido app to pose your questions or your ideas, or even just introduce yourself, just to engage with you and make this a session for you, which is really catering to your needs. Now, to kick off the discussion, I would like to ask the first question to Bob. So Bob, could you please share with us your golden recipe to support aspiring entrepreneurs in growing their business idea? And maybe you can also highlight how your support differs from other programs which are more focused on later stage businesses. Over to you, Bob.
Thank you so much, Julia. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Just like Julia said, we want Hope entrepreneurs to understand whether the problem they want to solve in the community is worth solving. And for those who are for-profit businesses, we want them to understand whether the customer is willing to buy a given product or service. And for those who are social entrepreneurs, we want to help them understand whether their problem because there are so many solutions on the market already, but how feasible is yours that people are going to go for and leave what is on the market already? And then thirdly, how viable is your product? So we're interested in knowing whether you have a business model that works. Whether you're a social enterprise or you're a for-profit business, do you have a business model which is sustainable, replicable, and revenue generating? Now that is phase one. We undertake that for a period of up to 6 months. Each phase takes 2 months in which we train these entrepreneurs And in phase 2, we take them through experimentation process in which they are going to build prototypes and test them out with entrepreneurs or would-be customers for the product or service that they're building. Now, the prototyping phase is very interesting. And this is where most entrepreneurs give up from, because in most cases, they believe when they build the first prototype, it should be a hit on the market. They believe that is the phase where they'll be making money from. And yet from the research we've done and also the support we've given entrepreneurs, the prototyping phase is meant to help you understand whether the product features or service features you're offering can actually help the customer or the beneficiary you're building a product for. So that phase can take even up to a year, depending on what you're building. For some entrepreneurs, it can even take 5 years. And what really makes it work for one is consistency, iteration. The more you listen from the customer or the beneficiary, the more you keep building until you're able to offer them a product or solution that is different from the market, a product or solution that is going to help them solve a problem that is currently hard for them to solve. That is for the social entrepreneurs. While for the profit businesses, they're interested in knowing why they should come and buy your product or service and not take on the current product on the market. So we help them build prototypes, experiment them with a small user group, and then later on, depending on how the customers have taken on the product, they can go on and scale. Now, one of the issues we've also come to identify is that when someone is working alone, it is really hard for them to succeed. Now, it takes us to the third pillar of how we run our incubation and accelerator programs, which is mentorship, where we introduce these business owners to industry experts who are mentors and understand how the field works. Now, this could be people who have successfully run a similar business or people who influence key decisions in the private and public sector. So we do introduce them to the entrepreneurs, and entrepreneurs have at least 2 office work hours every week and get to discuss with these mentors so that they can get to understand what the problem is and how best they can be able to address them. And the mentorship program goes on for at least a year. And then later on, if they're still interested in working with these mentors, they can then have an agreement how best they can work together. And then lastly, after the 1 year period of us working with these entrepreneurs, usually the next question is, so what? We've built a product, we've tested it, the customers want it, so what? So we then introduce them to go-to-market solutions. We work with different partners that can help these entrepreneurs bring their products to the market. And I'm happy to mention that EITC is one of those partners that enables entrepreneurs bring their products to the market. If you have a product that is meeting international standards in Uganda, you should be able to sell that product outside of Uganda, depending on the quality marks that that product meets. The same applies to an entrepreneur who is interested in selling their product within the East African region. So we introduce them to such development partners. And to make this really work, we've worked with different people who have enabled us support entrepreneurs to build bankable solutions over time. And we work with development partners, we work with government, industry experts, as well as also we also introduce them to peers who have gone through the program and have been able to build successful businesses, so they're able to learn from them and also help them build a successful business or social enterprise. So if you're out there and you're really interested in running a business, it's very important that you identify a community that understands what you're doing, and that community is going to help you build a product or service that is going to change the community, or a product or service that is going to create you a lot of income, and later on, through corporate social responsibility, you can be able to give back to your community. Thank you, Julia. At this moment, I would love to invite Federico. Federico is a youth advisor from Colombia, and would like him to share with us a couple of things around the kind of support he's been able to benefit from as a young entrepreneur, as well as where he would need additional support from the ecosystem to enable him build a sustainable business over time. Over to you, Federico.
Okay, so hello everyone. It's a pleasure to participate in this forum and help young entrepreneurs across the globe. To begin with, it's important to set a definition for entrepreneurship if we're going to delve into this domain. From my perspective, entrepreneurship consists in pursuing an opportunity before you have all the resources needed to exploit that opportunity. Therefore, in order to mobilize these resources, you need different types of support to validate, execute, and scale your business. As a young entrepreneur, I've been benefited by commonly known players in the ecosystem. For example, mentors, investors, hubs, other entrepreneurs, and network partners. Probably from this session, you'll get the most valuable benefits of each of these players. So I want to bring forward the support gained through alternative means. In my case, through books, podcasts, online courses, hackathons, and tech partner deals. From here, I would like to emphasize on a recent book that touches a very important topic that entrepreneurs still need additional support from the ecosystem. It lays out a comprehensive roadmap on one of the least talked yet important aspects: why startups fail. This is the title of the latest book by Tom Eisenman, a Harvard Business School professor that launched a multi-year research project to find out 6 distinct patterns that account for the vast majority of startup failures. So by isolating the behaviors that often lead to failure, it helps entrepreneurs avoid fatal missteps and thus spare them a great deal of pain. I've been there, and failure really hurts. And if it's due to avoidable errors, it also wastes time and capital that could be better spent elsewhere. Society needs entrepreneurs to solve a spate of problems and can't afford to have talent and resources tied up in ill-considered, ill-fated ventures. But at the end of the day, if the startup does fail despite the best efforts, this book equips entrepreneurs with tools to learn more from the experience and bounce back stronger. By studying failure in other realms, the author discovered that we learn from setbacks in 2 distinct ways. First, from direct personal experience, and second, vicariously, that is, by observing others' mistakes. Direct experience can be a powerful teacher when individuals reflect on what went wrong and what might they have done differently. This usually works when feedback cycles are frequent and fast, and when stakes are modest enough that strong emotions want model thinking. Weather forecasts would fit this profile, but startups do not. Fortunately, vicarious learning from others' mistakes can substitute for direct personal experience. Studying failure in other domains also brought to light why it can be so difficult to understand the startup stumbles. Humans are wired to oversimplify explanations for both good and bad outcomes, through what philosophers call the single cause fallacy. We shine a spotlight on one big reason for a calamity when the outcome is actually a result of multiple factors. Furthermore, we're prone to make what psychologists call the fundamental attribution error. Research shows that when we observe others, our explanations for their behavior tend to overemphasize the dispositional factors, their personality type, and the values we assume they have, while downplaying situational factors, such as social pressures or environmental circumstances. By contrast, when explaining our own behavior, we tend to attribute good outcomes to dispositional factors, in particular, our skill and diligence, and bad outcomes to situational ones. Hence, by revealing these cognitive biases, we end up with common patterns reflected on failed startups. Here, I will briefly share the ones experienced by early stage entrepreneurs. The first one is called bad bedfellows. Usually, a startup success is thought to rest largely on the founder's talents and instincts, but the wrong team, investors, partners, can sink a venture just as quickly. The second pattern found is named false starts. This one involves the often cited advice to fail fast and launch before you're ready. However, founders risk wasting time and capital on the wrong solutions. While the third one is categorized as false promises, where success with early adopters can be misleading and give founders unwarranted confidence to expand. Finally, I consider this a crucial aspect when where ecosystem partners should focus more time and resources. Eisenman offers a framework for detecting when a venture is vulnerable to these patterns, along with a wealth of strategies and tactics for avoiding them. This is a must read for founders at any stage of their entrepreneurial journey, and Why Startups Fail is not merely a guide to preventing failure, but also a roadmap charting the path to success. Talking about success, funding is one of the most important aspects of this journey. Here, Alieu from Gain can share some of the best tactics to attract investors.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that, Federico, and for the insights both you and Bob have shared. As mentioned, my name is Alieu Senghor from the Gambia Angel Investors Network, which is the first registered angel investor network in the Gambia. So just to speak specifically to your question, really, how can young entrepreneurs attract capital and what investors tend to look for? So I would really focus on two things. Firstly, especially speaking to angel investing. Angel investing, as you all know, it's really early stage investing where it's investors are investing in either startups, a lot of them which obviously tend to be pre-revenue or really early stage businesses. So it's very, very risky in any context, especially within our context where we're operating in a small country, small open economy like a low income country like the Gambia. So the first thing I would always say to an entrepreneur is know who you're actually approaching. Why is that important? Because in angel investing, it tends to be thematic, because angel investors, generally what you tend to find is they prefer to kind of invest in an area where they have domain expertise. So if you are operating in tech, for example, and you approach a network or investor who really has very little experience or appetite for any tech-facing business, really there's not much you can do to be able to convince that person about your business and your proposition. So I think that is the first fundamental thing, is knowing the appetite of the angel investing and investor that you want to approach for funding. So you need to be able to find someone who has your interest, knows your sector, understands your sector, and aside from even providing capital, can also help add value to your business as well. So in early stage investing, I think obviously like in all investing, one of the things that always catches a potential investor's eye is, the market. Is it an interesting market? Is it a scale? Is it a market where it's growing? What kind of businesses are in that market? What is the strength of your proposition? So, can you solve a problem and solve it in a profitable way, especially if you're charging premium prices for it? Can you establish a competitive position that is defendable? These are really generally things that all investors across, whether it's angel investing, venture capital, that they tend to look at. But really in early stage investing, what I will submit to be the most critical thing, it's really that is assessed, is really the greatness traits of the entrepreneur. Because as you know, it's early stage investing. Sometimes it's very, very hard to be able to assess the proposition, and most startups fail anyway. So sometimes a lot of investors don't really put too much weight in that. As long as they're very comfortable, they like the sector, they feel comfortable that there's value to be made in this sector. Really what they want to establish is whether you are the person who can make it happen. And as you know, being able to grow a company to scale really requires greatness. So, one of the things that I think is really material is they look at the entrepreneur and the team. And when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about the traits. And in our experience using the angels that we have in the Gambia Angel Investors Network, the things that matter to them: integrity, passion, startup experience, domain experience, operating skills, leadership ability, long-term visioning, realism, practicality, even temperament. These are all material things. But I think some things that always stand out that really sometimes don't speak well about the angel is really unrealistic assessments, projections that are really all over the place. So that don't seem to make sense. These are things that don't really convince somebody. So I think the value that you add as an entrepreneur is very, very critical to being able to attract investment. What I can say is sometimes we do have challenges, especially in our context. And one of the main challenges that I think we find is we do not have companies that come to us who are investment ready, right? And that seems to be like a very generic term, but sometimes really what does this refer to? It refers to not having, for example, the company registration structure, maybe being registered either as a limited liability company or a structure that makes it possible for an investor to be able to invest in your businesses. Sometimes it's little things like failings with documentation, like not having adequate enough accounts, things of that sort. So I think in our view, what this points to, it's how imperative it is to be able to kind of get the right support through the ecosystem, because really we feed from the angels, the incubators, who really, in our view, should be able to get these companies to be able to get to the standard where it's easy for them to be able to raise capital. So in where we operate, the ecosystem is extremely, extremely important and helping to be able to close some of the gaps that we see. So I think it's in this regard for myself, I'd be especially pleased to learn about the experiences of Judith, especially. And for me, there are three material questions that I would like to hear from you. Firstly is, what are three ways in which partnerships between ecosystem players can positively impact the development of youth businesses? And if you do have time, it would be very interesting to also find out how young change makers in your program also, after getting the benefit of your training, can also pay that forward as well. Thank you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks a lot, Aliu. That was really insightful and interesting. So for the audience out there, my name is Judith Lee, and I'm representing the Westwelle Foundation, which is an NGO based in Berlin. And our mission is really to empower entrepreneurs in emerging and developing markets. And we do this through co-working spaces across Africa, and also through a flagship program here in Berlin called the Young Founders Program, which is a fellowship open to entrepreneurs in Latin America, Asia, and also Africa. So regarding your first question, three ways in which ecosystem players can create positive, impactful partnerships. So I would say there's 3 points. First of all, a blueprint for innovation. Second of all, resources for success and failure. And then finally, inclusivity. So in terms of a blueprint for innovation, in a highly functional ecosystem, it's really crucial that the players are basically thinking of the entire innovation chain, as you said. So for that example, the Westwelle Foundation, if we're going to go into a new market, we're always looking at where are the gaps. And one of these might quite often be the valley of death, where Aliu, you had mentioned, this angel investment stage where you're looking for the big personalities and the interesting startups. And then you have some more mature investors, maybe already at Series A. And where is the support in between there? So I think it's important that the players speak to each other, avoid duplication, and then find this gap. And we tried to feed basically great quality startups to then investors later on past the gap. And in this way, it's just a positive reinforcement cycle that keeps on increasing the quality of the local innovation system. So the second point is also kind of talking about what Federico mentioned, which is that resources are not only just for the success of a venture, but also for the failure of a venture. So, I mean, the nature of innovation is creating something that is previously unproven on some aspect. So there's a high probability of failure, and I think entrepreneurs cannot be afraid of that. So as an example, the Young Founders Program here at the Westwelle Foundation, our mindset is really that even when entrepreneurs fail in their venture that they applied with for our program, actually they end up doing something with the skills that we provide them, and they know better the next time around how to become a leader in their industry and market. So we see a lot of our young talents who go on to found more amazing projects or join amazing projects that really boost the impact in their local community. So that's really important to give this resources for them to fail. And finally, in terms of inclusivity, I think it's particularly important for ecosystem players to take into account diversity, because, in traditional finance, oftentimes they're looking at a certain type of upbringing, a certain type of demographic, even though we all know, everyone has the same shot, especially when you're young, at success or failure. So basically over here, I think it's up to ecosystem players like accelerators and hubs and also investors to always make sure that they're not using stereotypes to try to see who's to measure success, and also to promote and provide support and finance to all founders and ventures equitably. So that's to your first question. And then finally, how do young changemakers kind of pay it forward? So I would say the really best way is just to stay open, engaged, and positive. And actually, this positive attitude goes a long way for you as an entrepreneur and also for your ecosystem. So I'll just give a quick example for Chino, who is an entrepreneur from the Philippines, who's also in the ITC Yay community. And because he was so engaged in that entrepreneurship community, he actually was nominated by ITC to join the Young Founders Program. And so in the past cohort, we saw that he was making a lot of partnerships, reaching out a lot within the program. And he ended up creating a sales partnership with a previous alumni of the YFP. And just this morning, he reached out back to me, gave me an update, and I made another introduction for another potential sales partnership. So really, it's all about staying open and to collaboration, and that's how you can best really pay it forward. So on that note, I would be happy to connect with anybody in terms of any of the resources that they need, especially if you're a young entrepreneur in a developing country. And I would be really interested in seeing the perspective from a mentor of the Yay community, from Antonio Duarte. So my questions for you are, first of all, why is mentoring and coaching so important in an entrepreneur's community or journey? And then second of all, how have you supported young entrepreneurs in building their business?
Thank you, Judith. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm very happy that we are discussing and having this conversation about young entrepreneurs and how can we support them somehow from the investor perspective, party perspective. So it's really important to have these discussions, because I think we can have a lot of we can achieve a lot with this conversations. So to your point, Judith. Yeah, I think a mentor or multiple mentors, depending on the business that you are, depending on kind of situation that you are, I think is key to succeed. I've been being with startups for more than 6 years now. I had my one startup. I've been working with early stage startups, scale-ups, and now I'm working for OneStream. OneStream is a pre-IPO. So I work with different kind of stages in the startups. So I believe that any stage you need a mentor. Doesn't matter what are you doing and what stage. I think you need a mentor. And like I said, could be a mentor, could be multiple. A mentor is not someone that validates your idea, because validation is something that your customer will do. A mentor is someone that is kind of a guide for you. As someone that's giving you, let's say, a few ways to go. It's someone that is challenging you to, are you sure about this? Do you think it's going to be okay? Do you think it's right? Do you try this? So someone is challenging the entrepreneur to move forward in the business. By doing this challenging, by challenging this mentees and this young entrepreneurs, I think we are helping them to achieve a better product, a better solution, a better strategy, market, a better strategy to go to the market, a better marketing plan, a better pitch. So by doing this challenging as a mentor, and then I'm going to do a bridge for the second question you did and give you a few examples of people that I've been mentoring for the last couple of years now, and I've been working with the Yay community. So if you are expert in something, I recommend you to be in the platform and to be part of the Yay community, because as a young entrepreneur or as a mentor, I have a couple of cases. For example, Classnotes, a company from Pakistan, and the entrepreneur needed help to review the contract from the investors. So he needed to do some guides. Hey, what do you think about this? Do you think it's normal Do you think it's okay to accept this? Do you think I can negotiate this? So a mentor that has experience in that field can say, you know, like, what I saw, I don't think this is normal. Or what I saw, maybe you should ask another person, a legal person, etc. Another startup I helped was not about the business, but about the entrepreneur itself. So this entrepreneur, she wanted to improve how to manage their time, how to manage, how could be more efficient in her meetings with her team. She had some conflicts with her team, with the co-founders, and in this early stage, you can find a lot of this. I'm not calling fights, but I will call it a challenge between co-founders. There is no money on the table. There is no stocks on the table. There is no shares. So it's sometimes complex to say, you know, what finish my part and what starts your part. So I helped this entrepreneur for the last 9 months to not only that individual part to become more efficient and to manage our time, but also to solve some conflicts internally. So again, the mentor part here is very important for the success of the entrepreneur. It's important in every stage. If you are a young entrepreneur starting, or if you are a pre-IPO, that also need a mentor, right? So I was going to be an IPO, how I need to prepare to IPO. So in different stages, I think you believe it. I think you need a mentor. And like I said, and I'm very proud to be part of the community. I think is a platform that you need to check it out and as a mentee or as a mentor, be part of.
Well, thanks a lot, Antonio, for sharing this insight. I think, as you said, it's super important to have mentors. As you said, like no matter which state your business is in, it's always good to have you and kind of to challenge your ideas, but also to guide you, to share experiences, and thereby really support in growing your business. Overall, like I'm really amazed of the insights all of you shared. To me, like I learned a lot. For instance, how prototyping is helping to align your product with beneficiary needs. Also, then what I really enjoyed is hearing, well, you can be an expert, you can have that product, but if your personality is not convincing, then you might not find the right investors to support you in your growth. So I think it's really a mix of your personality, the idea, the people who are surrounding you to make your business grow and really spark it out. I would like to use the last 10 minutes of the session now to turn towards the audience. We have received some questions on Slido and in the different WhatsApp groups. So the first question is more towards tech, because I think so far we have remained rather sector agnostic. And here's on the link between how big tech can be used to experiment in social entrepreneurship. So kind of trying to find a link between being the profitable Silicon Valley startup, but also then I think what we try to share here, cater your enterprise and your business ideas towards the need of more developing countries. Whoever feels he or she can answer this question, please feel free to jump in.
So Julie, if I understand, oh, Judith, yeah, you wanna go?
Yeah, one of those technology things. I'll just go quickly. So as I understood, it was about the balance between a social objective and also trying to maximize perhaps profit or growth. And I think, first of all, it's important for the founder and the team to know their intentions, because success looks different. It comes in different forms. So basically, one way could be that you're not going to be the next Amazon, but yet you create a big impact in a certain geography or a certain region. And so this is something that I think it's up to the founder to kind of decide. And also, especially in the early stage, it's really important, yes, to know this mission, what's driving you. At the same time, it's really hard to focus on measuring impact planning the impact, because you're just struggling to be viable and stay alive. So I would say know what's driving you and where you want to go, but at the same time, focus on making sure that you can realize the dream that you have.
Yes, I want to build up on that. And it really depends on the business model and the purpose you set up for the startup as it grows on the different series. So, for example, there's OneWeb. They're doing literally a moonshot, which is taking cube satellites, and they basically give internet to people across all regions in the world. So that's literally a moonshot. It has a lot of potential. Is dealing with very difficult, complex technological barriers, but still it can cover the world, literally the whole world, through that also social impact.
Thank you, Federico. I think also maybe Antonio, you wanted to add something here?
Maybe that, for example, if you look really to like Facebook, for example, and Amazon are investing in drones and other things to provide internet to places that don't have it at the moment. So, so that's the big tech being social as well, so there is a lot of angles, luckily, to look into this, and yeah, just wanted to give you this.
Thank you. Yeah, so even like the big companies are also focusing more and more on the social enterprises and finding solutions which are kind of applicable in different countries. Konstantin has asked us what should be done to prepare the young entrepreneurs to meet the future challenges better. And I think this is probably really interesting in terms of climate change, or maybe also, as you've seen with COVID, kind of worldwide spanning diseases. So is there kind of the 1, 2, 3 tips you have how young entrepreneurs can meet the challenges of the future in a better way? Maybe Bob, do you want to answer this question?
Sure. Thank you, Julia. So for me, my 2 cents on that would be, 1, understand the community need or the need of the beneficiary. That is, if you're running a social enterprise, because at the end of the day, if you're interested in creating a solution, a product that is going to help a community solve a given problem, then you will have to spend as much time as you need with that given community, understand the problem they're facing from their perspective, and create a solution with them, for them. There you'll be able to create a product that they are going to own, a product that they love, and a product that is solving a problem that they are facing. So you'll be able to easily scale it. So if that solution works in a given community, it should be easy for you to scale it and replicate it in different communities, either within the country or in different parts of the world. And then for those who are running for-profit businesses, it doesn't help you to start mass production immediately. It is very important for you to understand how your business model works. It's very important for you to understand the unit economics, like how are you going to make money with the product or service that you're selling? Are the customers choosing your product over the existing products and services on the market? So you'll need to first sit down and do lots of iterations or experimentations in identifying what are those things that your competitors are doing that customers don't want. Leverage on them and build something that is going to make the customers come for your product instead of your competitors. So for me, my 2 cents are: do your research, understand the market you intend to work in very well, and then build a product or service based on the pains that the customers are facing. And believe me, you'll be able to create or produce a product or solution that is going to create you a lot of revenue in the long run.
Thank you, Bob, for these insights. And I guess if you do your research right, and if you really kind of already can foresee the market trends, then your product and your service is going to be really successful in the community. Maybe Ali, for you, we've been speaking here about product and services which are already making revenue, and where you can really see that they're going towards the growth stage. But really, if you have more idea stage, early stage businesses, how do you evaluate whether they can be kind of a future's shining star?
Well, I think it's some of the other panelists have kind of spoken to this already. It's really first establishing, the whole concept, of establishing kind of a minimum viable product, and then knowing whether you have a product that can grow to scale. And I think that's the idea. And even Federico spoke to it earlier, is sometimes when you have an idea, your visioning is, okay, I feel that I can solve this problem that would require maybe $10 million in investments. You do not start and then deploy all that 10 million, because the probability of you maybe deploying that money in an activity that is not going to yield value, it's relatively quite high. So if it's that idea, the idea is how can you start and how can you already slowly build a customer, a minimum viable product that will go into various types of iterative processes, so that you can be able to hone in on your service proposition, hone in on who your customer base is, etc. So I think it's growth. It's that's the process, and you will see this in any context, really, in any startup story. That is usually the context of growth. You have to be able to show that there is something worth investing in, right? So if while some ideas they started at an ideation stage, how can I deploy as the simplest version of that to be able to see whether there's legs to this idea and then build from there? That's really the idea, the advice I'll be able to give anybody.
Thank you, Ali, for sharing that advice on the minimum viable product and how to build this. We have one last question from Samuel from Kenya, who is really focusing on how youth who are more in rural areas can be connected to funding opportunities, to high-profile meetings, to really showcase their product. Because as we've heard, networks are important, but then it's also always the question, how can you access these networks when you live in places which are not really well connected?
So yeah, I can answer that, and that's actually what we're doing with the YET chapter in Colombia. We will launch soon. And what I've seen from the past years is that most of the opportunities, even though there are a lot, but most of them, people in the cities are getting it, either if it's through the network or because of their geographic location. So how can we reach there? It's basically partnering with organizations that have centers across these rural areas, and through internet connectivity. That's the first one, as I spoke before. But just partnering with organizations that have access to these places, and through that you can give several tools and even mentoring, as Antonio was talking about, in order for them to take advantage of these opportunities, have a high probability of a higher chance of them winning them, and hopefully and slowly we could reach all these areas in order to help the underserved communities.
Thank you. Internet connectivity, I think that's really the key, and what you need now to really grow your business. But I guess once you have it, as you say, you can connect not only then to your local community, you can reach out to a global network of other entrepreneurs, of mentors, of partnering enterprises. So having internet connectivity is really facilitating the growth of your business. As we're coming close to the hour, I think I close it here. I really would like to thank all of our speakers, Bob, Federico, Adio, Judith, and Antonio, for being here today with us, for sharing your insight. It has been a pleasure, and I think the most important takeaway really for me is that it's the person who can make it happen. So what I want to end with is that you should be great, be confident, and really show your personality and put your business idea forward. So have a good night, have a good continuation of the rest of your day, and I hope to see you soon on another event, or maybe also on the YET community. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Julia. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Great day.
Bye.
Enjoy the forum.